Hey, people. So, I've had a couple of days now, and there's been I'm going to try and encapsulate a thought today, a series of thoughts that has kind of been evolving over the last few days. And it sort of it kind of gelled yesterday after I finished my third cosmic cabaret, which was so much fun to do. And having just done the post about my resistance to it, it was really interesting to feel what it felt like to do, and to kind of move through that and realize, oh my God, all this resistance, all these voices that were ringing in my head were total bullshit. None of them, it was just resistance, which of course I knew, and I was kind of saying that yesterday, but it felt so good to do it, and I felt like, oh, another new little doorway opened here in the as I was doing it. I felt like I opened into a new space, and I discovered, I think, a little bit more of what it wants to be, which is really exciting. And so, of course, coming out of that felt great. And one thing that happened almost immediately, because I finished the cabaret around 5 p.m. my time. Katie and Annalise had just gotten home, and Katie and Annalise had spent the afternoon together, and so I went back to the back of the house and started hanging out with Annalise. And I noticed that, having just completed the cabaret, having just done it, having just kind of stepped up and faced into the resistance and just done the thing, I felt relaxed. I talked about this after my very first one. I just felt relaxed. I was like, what can go wrong? Everything is great. I had that feeling of ease and peace that comes from doing what we need, doing what we're supposed to be doing what we need to be doing on the deepest level, even if that requires courage, or even if that requires leaning into some uncomfortable stuff. So I noticed myself present with Annalise in a beautiful way, and then we had a lovely evening together. And she asked for me to put her to bed, and so I put her to bed. It was very lovely, and the reason why I said this has been building for a couple days is because a couple days ago, I was having the experience. I have been doing some work on the piano through my lessons with Madeline. I'm just making some discoveries there right now. I'm realizing how certain things work at the piano in a way that I just never have. And it's like being born again. It's like I'm saved. I'm healed. Hallelujah. I didn't even know I could do this, but I can, or I can at least see. I can, it's like I've been saying. I've been playing some of these Chopin etudes for years now, on and off. I pick them up here and there over the years, and I've never quite seen how you get there. I just never quite got how you get these up to the level that I know they're supposed to be performed at. And I'm starting to see how that works. I'm starting to get a glimpse of, oh, this is actually, like, this process that I'm in now with the way Madeline is guiding me. I can actually see myself getting there, which is new and amazingly exciting and so cool. And also, that excitement and that connection to my work, to my art, was actually making me a little more distant from Annalise. I was noticing that I was a little less patient with her if there was a time that I was working with her, but I wanted to get back to practicing, or I wanted to get back to, usually it was practicing. I would kind of have there'd just be a little bit of like friction in the system to just going at Annalise's pace through whatever she wanted to do that day. Just being with her, present in the moment. because I had this other thing that was like, come back, play with me. I'm a beautiful, amazing, evolving new thing that you have, And so I was just clocking how this deepening commitment to my craft and my art can sometimes draw me, it can draw my focus away from my child, from my baby. And on one level, of course, we're like, oh, how horrible, you're becoming less present with your child because you're obsessed with your art. How shallow. um but which is, I essentially kind of agree with that, but I don't fully agree with it, in the sense that then there's experiences like I had yesterday where I finish I conclude, I step into something that's really challenging, or where I'm overcoming some resistance to do it, and it puts me in a place of just total existential ease in my own being, and I'm more present for Annalise or anybody else in my life than I am if I'm not evolving, if those barriers in me are not being transcended, not being moved beyond, then they become the barriers. They become the things that limit me, that limit how connected I can actually be to myself, and therefore to other people. So there's this really interesting dichotomy, and I've observed this even in my my father. It was a singer, sang all over the world, in some of the biggest opera houses in the world, with some of the greatest musicians in the world. He talks about his kind of how he transitioned from his career meant everything to him to realizing that his family was more important than his career. And I've always just admired that, and been so kind of inspired by the journey that he went to sort of have this career that like elevated him out of this little tiny town in Kansas that he was living in, took him all around the world, put him in connection with a kind of like world of people, deeply trained, deeply skilled, wise, the kind of people that I've had in my life too, the amazing teachers that I've connected with, not to mention colleagues, co-performers, other, directors. The list goes on. So I have this it's in my awareness that this is something that my father also had to work with in his life, because he had an incredibly deep and profound connection to an art, and he had a family that he loves. And learning to negotiate those, and learning that it's actually, even if I get obsessed with piano here and there and it pulls me away from Annalise temporarily, that's actually okay. Like, it's not that I'm gonna stay there. It's not that I'm gonna let that draw me so far away that I guess it's just the kind of thing that needs to be navigated with awareness, and a kind of a sense of where am I right now, and what actually is the priority. I've also, I have also noticed, like, when I spent all this time with Annalise over the summer, I had about a good 2 months, if not a little more, where I was kind of on duty, not full time, but much of the time, because Katie had a job and we were moving, and I was still working some, but it was kind of like, if I wasn't teaching a lesson, I was kind of on duty. And I noticed, and I again, that chapter ended with such a beautiful. We went to Michigan for a week, and I just had this beautiful experience of feeling like, oh my God, this is the most amazing time of my life, that I get to spend this time with my daughter. Well, when it came back around and it was time when Annalise went to school, and all of a sudden I had open days to essentially do my work, it took me, I had to ramp back up into that creative side of myself. I really did have to, okay, I'm not used to doing this. I've got to like flex that muscle again. Okay, get the engine going, And so there's this way in which keeping that alive is actually also really important and really part of the juggling act, part of the discipline. Because on some level, our art is also like a baby. I mean, you talk about it, like, when you talk about in a something you're writing or creating, kill your babies, which is a horrible phrase, but this idea that you got to know what goes in and what comes out. Things you were attached to, maybe they don't belong, maybe they're not working. There's that element of an artwork is a form of progeny. Almost, we give birth to it. It feels like a birth giving, which of course is what makes it so compelling and so challenging, and why it's so inherently a powerful experience for us. But I think what has come through, was really nice to feel yesterday. Okay, I came another revolution forward in terms of I've done I took another step. I put myself out there. I kind of like didn't let the resistance stop me. And the result of that was I just like fell into this relaxed ease and just total desire to be with my child and be totally available to her and be open with her. So they're not actually in conflict. We just have to be willing to let our energy, we got to keep both doors open, keep it flowing, keep it moving. I'm not sure that there's a science to this other than just do everything with love. That's kind of what it feels like it comes down to. The way that I'm working with Madeline right now is so rooted in ease and presence and self-acceptance and going at the pace that is appropriate, not needing to reach or be somewhere else. So as I deepen into that, and as I take that on ever more, as I integrate that, I just find myself becoming more and more available, becoming more and more. It's more, the effect is more and more one of, this is expanding me. I might be obsessed. I might get intense, but more often than not, I'm allowing it to happen. And what a great thing to learn when it comes to kids. Allow things to happen. Don't need to make them happen. In that sense, these two things are not only compatible, they're mutually supportive. They might even be vital for each other. So, yeah, just some reflections on art and parenthood have been coming through. So, thanks for watching, people. Love you so much. Thanks to anybody who came to the cabaret yesterday. Awesome to have you there. It's happening again next week. Can't wait to see you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.